The night was unusually quiet at Central State University. Marcus Chen rubbed his tired eyes as he walked through the botanical gardens, taking a shortcut back to his apartment after another late night at the research lab. Being a graduate student in xenobiology wasn't easy, especially when most people thought studying possible alien life forms was a waste of time. A bright flash in the sky caught his attention. At first, he thought it was just a shooting star, but the light moved strangely, almost as if it was trying to control its descent. His heart began to race as the object got closer and closer to the ground. With a muffled thud, it crashed into the dense bamboo section of the gardens. "Hello," Marcus called out softly, pulling out his phone's flashlight. Common sense told him to run away or call the police, but his scientific curiosity won out. "Is anyone there?" As he pushed through the tall bamboo stalks, he found a sleek metallic pod about the size of a small car. Its surface seemed to shift colors like oil on water, and despite having just crashed, it was surprisingly intact. What really caught his attention was the fact that it was slowly turning invisible. "This is definitely not from Earth," he whispered to himself, reaching out to touch the pod's surface. It was warm and seemed to pulse under his fingers like it was alive. Suddenly, a panel slid open with a soft hiss. Marcus jumped back, his heart pounding in his chest. Inside, he saw something that would change his life forever. A figure lay slumped over the controls. In the dim light, Marcus could see that the person, if you could call them that, had skin that shimmered like mother of pearl, with delicate scales that caught the light. Small, crystal-like formations grew from their temples, forming what looked like a natural crown. They were wearing what appeared to be some kind of high-tech suit, but it was torn in several places, revealing wounds that leaked a silvery fluid. The being's eyes fluttered open, revealing pupils that looked like swirling galaxies. "Please," they spoke in perfect English, though their voice seemed to echo slightly. "Help me." Marcus didn't hesitate. His 3 years of xenobiology research might have been theoretical, but he knew enough to recognize that this being was hurt. "I'm Marcus," he said softly, reaching into the pod. "I'm going to help you. Can you move?" "Careful," they warned weakly. "My body temperature, much higher than yours, might burn you." Marcus quickly took off his lab coat and used it as a barrier between them. With gentle movements, he helped the alien out of the pod. They were surprisingly light, almost as if their bones were hollow. "I'm Valera," they whispered as Marcus helped them stand. "Princess of the Celestial Empire. They're hunting me." "Who's hunting you?" Marcus asked, looking around nervously. The gardens were still empty, but for how long? "Traitors. Coup." Valera's words became weaker. "Need to hide. Heal." Marcus made a quick decision. His research lab was nearby, equipped with all sorts of experimental medical equipment. It wasn't meant for treating alien royalty, but it was better than nothing. "Hold on, Your Highness," he said, supporting her weight as they moved through the gardens. "I've got a safe place. No one goes to the xenobiology lab this late anyway. They all think it's a joke." Valera managed a weak smile, her crystalline features catching the moonlight. Not a joke anymore. As they made their way to the lab, Marcus's mind raced with questions. How did she speak English? What was the Celestial Empire? Who was trying to kill her? But those questions could wait. Right now, he had an injured alien princess who needed his help, and he wasn't about to let her down. What he didn't know was that this chance encounter would not only prove that his research had value, but would also lead him on an adventure beyond his wildest dreams, one that would change both his life and the fate of 2 civilizations forever. The next few days were the most stressful of Marcus's life. He had an alien princess hidden in his research lab, sleeping on a makeshift bed he'd created from old cushions and blankets. Thankfully, the xenobiology department was so underfunded that nobody ever came to check on him. Valera recovered quickly, her alien biology healing wounds that would have taken humans weeks to recover from. As she got stronger, she began teaching Marcus about her people's technology. The most amazing thing was a small device she wore on her wrist, a holographic projector that could make her look completely human. "Watch this," she said one morning, pressing a crystal on her bracelet. Her shimmering scales and crystal crown disappeared, replaced by the appearance of a normal college student with long dark hair and olive skin. Only her unusual purple eyes remained. "Now I can walk around without drawing attention." Marcus stared in amazement. "That's incredible. But won't people wonder who you are?" Valera smiled, pulling out what looked like a regular student ID card. "My pod's computer created this before it crashed. According to Earth records, I'm now Valera Chen, an exchange student from Singapore, and apparently your cousin." "My cousin?" Marcus couldn't help but laugh. "Well, I guess that explains why you'd be hanging around with me." Their conversation was interrupted by footsteps in the hallway. They both froze, but it was just the janitor walking past. Still, it reminded them that they needed a better plan. "We can't keep hiding in the lab forever," Marcus said, running his hands through his messy black hair. "You need a proper place to stay, and we need to figure out how to contact your people." Valera's face grew serious. "The traders will be looking for any unusual communications leaving Earth. That's why I chose to crash here. Your planet's technology is considered too primitive for them to monitor closely." Just then, Marcus's phone buzzed. It was an email from the department head. "All faculty and students, please welcome our new transfer students from Stellar Industries Corporation. They will be conducting research in various departments this semester." Attached was a photo of 3 people in expensive suits. Valera's holographic face went pale when she saw it. "Those aren't transfer students," she whispered. "The one in the middle, that's Commander Vex. He led the attack on my family's palace." Marcus quickly closed the email. "They're looking for you, but why come to the university?" "They must have tracked my pod's final trajectory," Valera said, pacing the small lab. "But they can't be sure exactly where I landed, or they would have found me already." Marcus thought quickly. Sometimes the best hiding place was in plain sight. "Okay, here's what we'll do. You'll attend classes with me as my exchange student cousin. No one looks twice at students here, and it's the middle of the semester. New faces are common." "But what about my pod?" "They'll be scanning for alien technology." "Already taken care of." Marcus grinned. "I moved it to the old storage basement. It's surrounded by so much old electronic junk and failed experiments that any scans will be confused. Plus, your invisibility tech is still working." Valera looked at him with newfound respect. "You humans are surprisingly resourceful. My people often dismiss Earth as a backward planet, but perhaps we're the ones who need to learn from you." As they made plans for Valera's public debut as an exchange student, Marcus realized how much his life had changed in just a few days. He'd gone from being a lonely grad student studying theoretical alien life to helping a real alien princess hide from assassins. "One more thing," Valera said, adjusting her holographic appearance in a mirror. "You'll have to teach me how to act human. All my knowledge comes from your planet's digital networks, and I have a feeling that's not entirely accurate." Marcus smiled. "Well, cousin, your first lesson starts now. Let's get you some real Earth food. The campus cafeteria isn't great, but it's better than the energy pills you've been living on." Neither of them noticed the dark figure watching from the building across the street, speaking quietly into a communicator that definitely wasn't from Earth. The university cafeteria was crowded with students when Marcus and Valera entered. She was getting better at acting human, though some things still confused her, like why humans waited in lines for food when they could just synthesize it, or why they spent so much time looking at their phones. "Remember," Marcus whispered, "just act natural. You're just another student." Valera nodded, but then froze. Through the cafeteria window, she spotted Commander Vex and his 2 assistants walking across the campus square. Even in their human disguises, they moved with military precision. "They're getting closer," she whispered back. "And they have scanners. I can see them hidden in their briefcases. Marcus casually guided her to the food line, positioning himself between her and the window. Keep calm. Their scanners won't work well with so many electronic devices around. Everyone here has phones, laptops, and tablets. As they got their food, Valera choosing the same sandwich as Marcus to avoid attention, his phone buzzed. It was an email announcing a mandatory department meeting that afternoon. All students and faculty had to attend a presentation by their visitors from Stellar Industries. It's a trap, Valera said quietly as they found a table in the corner. They want to scan everyone in one place. Marcus thought quickly. Then we'll give them something to scan. I have an idea, but it's a bit risky. Back in the lab, Marcus pulled out some old equipment he'd been using for his research. These are prototypes for detecting theoretical alien energy signatures, he explained. They don't work, of course. At least they didn't until I met you. He took one of Valera's spent energy capsules and carefully inserted it into the device. If we turn these on during the meeting, they'll create similar energy readings to your technology. It'll confuse their scanners. Valera's eyes widened. But won't that lead them straight to us? That's the point, Marcus grinned. We're going to plant these devices all over the department. They'll detect dozens of false signals. The more they chase down, the more frustrated they'll get. The plan was dangerous but clever. They spent the next hour hiding the modified devices in various labs, offices, and classrooms. Marcus even managed to slip one into Commander Vex's temporary office while pretending to deliver paperwork. At 3 o'clock, everyone gathered in the main lecture hall. Valera sat near the back, trying to look bored like the other students. Marcus sat a few rows away. Cousins wouldn't necessarily sit together, he'd explained. Commander Vex took the stage, his human disguise perfect except for his too straight posture. Thank you all for coming, he began. Stellar Industries is very interested in your department's work on theoretical alien life. As he spoke, Marcus saw one of his assistants discreetly checking a scanner. The assistant frowned, tapped the device, then checked again. Marcus hid a smile. His devices were working, creating a chaos of readings. The presentation quickly became disorganized as all three visitors kept getting distracted by their scanners. Students started whispering and checking their phones, clearly bored by what seemed like a poorly planned corporate talk. Suddenly, one of the assistants pointed directly at Marcus. You, he said sharply. Your research papers on alien energy signatures are quite interesting. Would you mind staying after for a discussion? Valera tensed in her seat, but Marcus remained calm. Sorry, sir, he replied. I have to help my cousin settle in. She just transferred here. Maybe another time. The assistant's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, his scanner beeped loudly. New signals were appearing all over the building. In their rush to plant the devices, Marcus and Valera had set them to activate at slightly different times, creating a pattern that suggested movement. Commander Vex quickly ended the presentation, and the three disguised hunters rushed out, following the false signals. As students filed out of the lecture hall, Marcus caught Valera's eye and winked. They'd bought some time, but both knew the hunters wouldn't be fooled forever. What they didn't expect was the hand that grabbed Marcus's shoulder as he left the building. Mr. Chen, said Professor Zhang, his advanced xenobiology teacher, we need to talk. About your cousin. Professor Zhang's office was filled with strange artifacts that Marcus had always assumed were fake. Now, looking at them with Valera beside him, he realized they might be real alien technology. So, Professor Zhang said, closing the door, a member of the celestial royal family on my campus. I never thought I'd see the day. He pressed a button under his desk, and a slight humming filled the room. Don't worry, it's a privacy field. We can talk freely now. Valera's holographic disguise flickered off, revealing her true form. You know about my people. I've been Earth's secret contact with the galactic community for 20 years, he explained, pulling out what looked like an old medallion. When he pressed it, it projected a holographic badge. Someone needs to watch over Earth's interests while humanity develops. Marcus sat there with his mouth open. All this time, my research advisor was an alien diplomat. Not alien. Professor Jung smiled. Very human. We just have friends out there. Which is why I'm worried about your situation, Princess Valera. Your presence here puts Earth at risk. I didn't mean to, Valera said softly. I was desperate. Of course you were, Jung nodded. But Commander Vex isn't just a simple assassin. He's part of the ancient purity movement. They believe advanced civilizations shouldn't interact with primitive worlds like Earth. Marcus felt a chill. So they're not just after Valera. No. If they find her here, they'll use it as an excuse to quarantine Earth completely. No more secret technology sharing. No more preparation for eventual contact. They'll cut us off from everything. Just then, Marcus's phone buzzed. It was a message from his best friend Tom. Hey, those Stellar Industries people were asking about you. They seemed really interested in your research. Great job, buddy. Marcus showed the message to the others. Valera's crystalline features darkened with worry. They're using your friend to track us. Tom wouldn't help them on purpose. Marcus protested. He's been my friend since freshman year. Professor Jung's face grew serious. Let me check something. He typed quickly on his computer, then turned the screen to show them. It was Tom's student file, but with additional notes that shouldn't have been there. Notes in an alien language that Valera could read. He's one of them, she whispered. A sleeper agent, planted years ago to watch Earth's scientific development. Marcus felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Tom, who had encouraged his interest in aliens, who had helped him get into the xenobiology program, who had been there for every success and failure, had been lying the whole time. I'm so sorry, Marcus. Valera placed her hand on his shoulder, her touch warm through his shirt. I never meant to destroy your friendship. No. Marcus stood up suddenly. This isn't your fault. And maybe we can use this to our advantage. Professor Jung raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? They want my research. Let's give it to them. All of it. Every failed experiment. Every crazy theory. Every dead end. Buried somewhere in those files will be the data from our scanner trick today. Let them waste time sorting through it all. While they're busy, Valera caught on. We can try to contact my loyal supporters. It's risky, Professor Jung warned. If Tom really is their agent, he knows you well enough to guess when you're lying. Marcus looked at the photo on his desk, showing him and Tom at their college graduation. Then I won't lie. I'll tell him exactly what I've discovered about alien life. I'll just leave out the part about where I discovered it. As they made plans, none of them noticed the tiny drone outside the window, its camera focused on their meeting. In his temporary office, Commander Vex watched the feed with growing interest. The privacy field blocked their sound, but he could read lips. And what he was reading made him smile for the first time since arriving on this primitive planet. The campus coffee shop was busy when Marcus met Tom the next morning. He'd chosen this place carefully. Lots of people, lots of electronic noise to interfere with alien scanning devices, and plenty of escape routes. You should have told me sooner, Tom said excitedly, looking through Marcus's research files on a laptop. This is amazing work. The energy signatures you've detected. Stellar Industries would be very interested. Marcus watched his old friend carefully. How had he never noticed before? The way Tom sat too straight. How his emotions seemed slightly delayed, like he was remembering to act excited rather than actually feeling it. Well, you know me, Marcus shrugged, playing his part. I wanted to be sure before showing anyone, but after yesterday's presentation, I thought maybe it's time. Valera sat at a nearby table, pretending to study. Her holographic disguise was perfect, but Marcus could sense her tension. One wrong move, and everything would fall apart. Listen, Tom leaned forward, dropping his voice. I could arrange a private meeting with Mr. Vex. Today, he's very eager to see your work. Today, Marcus pretended to check his calendar. I'd have to cancel lunch with my cousin. She just transferred here, and I promised to show her around. Tom's eyes flickered to Valera's table for just a second too long. Bring her along. The more the merrier, right? Marcus was about to respond when his phone buzzed. It was Professor Zhang. Hunters found the pod. Emergency meeting now. His heart racing, Marcus started packing up his laptop. Sorry, Tom. Something's come up at the lab. Maybe tomorrow. But Tom grabbed his wrist. His grip was too strong to be human. I think you should make time, old friend. For your own good. Just then, Valera screamed. Not in fear, but in a precise frequency that made Tom's holographic disguise flicker for a moment. His alien features showed through: gray skin, black eyes, and metallic implants. The coffee shop erupted in chaos. Students pulled out their phones, taking pictures and videos of Tom's glitching appearance. Marcus used the confusion to break free, grabbing his laptop. Run! Valera shouted, already heading for the door. But Commander Vex and his other assistant were there, blocking the exit. Marcus looked around desperately. Then he smiled. Sometimes the best human solution was the simplest one. Fire alarm, he shouted, pulling the red lever on the wall. Sprinklers activated instantly, soaking everyone. The water interfered with the hunters' holographic disguises, making them flicker visibly. Now even more students were filming, and the hunters couldn't risk exposing themselves completely. In the chaos of evacuating students, Marcus and Valera slipped out a side door. They ran across campus towards Professor Zhang's office, taking a route through the most crowded areas they could find. I can't believe that worked, Valera said as they ran, using their own secrecy against them. Humans might be primitive, Marcus grinned, but we're good at thinking on our feet. They can't just shoot us in front of hundreds of witnesses with cameras. They found Professor Zhang in his office, looking grim. The pod's security systems are failing. They'll have access to its data core within hours. How bad is that? Marcus asked, catching his breath. Very, Valera said. The pod contains not just my location data, but emergency protocols, royal codes, everything they'd need to trick my loyal supporters into a trap. Professor Zhang nodded. We have to destroy it. Tonight. But the hunters will be guarding it. Marcus thought about everything he'd learned about alien technology in the past few days. Then he remembered something from his own research, something so simple it just might work. Actually, he said slowly, I think I know how we can destroy the pod and trap the hunters at the same time. But we'll need help from the most unlikely source. My failed experiments. Late that night, Marcus led Valera and Professor Zhang through the basement of the science building. The air was musty, filled with the smell of old equipment and forgotten experiments. His flashlight beam bounced off dusty machines and abandoned projects. Here they are, Marcus said, stopping in front of several large containers. My biggest failures. Failed experiments. Valera asked, looking confused. How will these help us? Marcus opened one container, revealing what looked like primitive scanning equipment. Remember how I tried to detect alien life before I met you? These devices were supposed to create electromagnetic pulses to detect unusual energy patterns. They never worked, but they did something else instead. Professor Zhang's eyes widened as he understood. They disrupted electronic equipment. The department banned them because they kept crashing computers. Exactly, Marcus grinned. And what are your people's holographic disguises and weapons? Advanced electronic equipment. Valera touched one of the devices gently. Marcus, you're brilliant. But won't they detect these if we move them? Not if we hide them in plain sight. Marcus pulled out several hand trucks. The physics department is having their annual equipment sale tomorrow morning. We'll just look like students moving old junk. They spent the next hour carefully positioning the devices around the storage basement, where Valera's pod was hidden. The hunters had set up guards, but they were so focused on their advanced scanning equipment that they barely noticed the humans moving old machinery. Tom was there too, back in his perfect human disguise. He watched them suspiciously, but couldn't prove they were doing anything wrong. After all, lots of students were preparing for tomorrow's sale. As they placed the last device, Valera suddenly grabbed Marcus's arm. "Wait," she whispered. "Something's wrong. The pod, its energy signature is changing." Professor Zhang checked his alien sensor. They'd broken through the security. They're downloading the data now. Marcus looked at the devices they'd planted. "It's now or never. Everyone get to the safe distance we marked." But before they could move, Commander Vex stepped out of the shadows, his disguise gone. His true form was tall and metallic, with glowing circuits running across his gray skin. Several armed guards appeared behind him. "I must admit, I'm impressed," Vex said, his voice carrying a metallic echo. "You've lasted much longer than expected. But now, thanks to your pod's data, Princess, we'll be able to eliminate all human-alien cooperation. Earth will remain primitive, as it should be." Tom stepped forward, also dropping his disguise. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I did enjoy being your friend, but progress must be controlled. Humans aren't ready for the stars." Marcus felt Valera's hand slip into his. Despite her holographic disguise, he could feel the warmth of her true form. In that moment, he realized something important, something that made him smile. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" Marcus asked, slowly reaching into his pocket. "You spent so much time underestimating humans that you never bothered to really understand us. For example," he pulled out an old TV remote he'd modified. "Did you know that human technology, even when it fails, can still do amazing things?" Before anyone could stop him, he pressed the button. All at once, his failed experiments activated, sending out powerful electromagnetic pulses. The hunters' disguises failed completely. Their weapons sparked and died. Even the pod's data download crashed. In the chaos that followed, more than 50 students who'd been working late rushed to the basement windows, drawn by the electrical display. Their phones were already out, recording everything. "No," Vex shouted, realizing what was happening. "Stop recording. This is classified." But it was too late. The hunters were exposed, their presence on Earth revealed to dozens of witnesses with cameras. And in the age of social media, there was no way to contain it. Valera squeezed Marcus's hand. "What happens now?" Marcus watched as his failed experiments continued to disable the aliens' advanced technology. Now we change everything." The next 24 hours were chaos. Videos of the alien hunters had gone viral, spreading across the internet faster than anyone could contain them. News vans surrounded the university, and government officials had taken over the science building. Marcus, Valera, and Professor Zhang sat in a secure conference room, surrounded by people from agencies whose names were just letters. Valera had dropped her holographic disguise. There was no point hiding anymore. "So let me get this straight," said a stern woman who'd introduced herself as Director Chen. "No relation to Marcus. You've been Earth's secret contact with alien civilizations for decades." She looked at Professor Zhang. "Yes," he nodded, "preparing humanity gradually for eventual contact, until these extremists forced our hand." Commander Vex and his team were being held in special cells designed to dampen their technology. Tom was with them, having revealed that he'd been replaced by an alien duplicate years ago. The real Tom was safe, living abroad with no memory of being replaced. "And you?" The director turned to Valera, her expression softening slightly. "You're actually an alien princess. The rightful heir to the Celestial Empire," Valera confirmed. Her crystalline features caught the fluorescent light, creating tiny rainbows on the walls. "And I've made a decision about that." Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Marcus felt her warm hand find his under the table. "My people have hidden from less advanced civilizations for too long," she said firmly. "We've let extremists like the ancient purity movement convince us that isolation is the only way. But look at what one human student accomplished. He outsmarted our best hunters using creativity and simple technology. Marcus blushed as Valera continued. I propose an alliance, official, public contact between Earth and the Celestial Empire. No more hiding. No more treating humans as primitive. The room erupted in excited whispers. Director Chen raised her hand for silence. That's a generous offer, Your Highness, but how can you be sure your people will accept it? From what you've told us, many share the ancient purity movement's views. Valera smiled, because they're about to learn the truth. While Commander Vex was trying to download my pod's data, I was using Marcus's electromagnetic interference to send a different signal, one that went straight to my loyal supporters. As if on cue, Professor Zhang's alien communicator beeped. The holographic display showed massive ships appearing in orbit around Earth, but instead of causing panic, they were broadcasting messages of peace in every language. The Royal Fleet, Valera explained. My sister leads them. The coup has been defeated, and Earth's handling of the hunters has proved that humanity is ready for contact. Director Chen looked thoughtful. This will change everything. The whole world order. Change can be good. Marcus spoke up for the first time. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Sorry, I know I'm just a student, but maybe both our civilizations need this. You've been hiding, thinking we're not ready. We've been looking up at the stars, thinking we're alone. Maybe it's time we helped each other grow. Valera beamed at him. Even the director cracked a smile. Well said, Mr. Chen, she nodded, though I suspect your life is about to change the most. After all, you're the human who helped save an alien princess. Every government and scientific organization on Earth will want to talk to you. Marcus hadn't thought about that. He'd been too busy trying to survive, to protect Valera, to think about what came after. Now, looking at her smiling face, he realized his simple life as a graduate student was over. But before he could worry about it, Valera made another announcement that would change everything even more. Actually, she said, squeezing Marcus's hand, I have one more proposal to make, one that will seal the alliance between our worlds forever. 3 months later, Marcus stood in front of a mirror, trying to figure out how to wear his ceremonial robes. They were a beautiful blend of Earth formal wear and Celestial Empire royal garments, midnight blue with crystal accents that caught the light like stars. Need help? Professor Zhang asked, entering the preparation room. He was wearing similar robes, though less elaborate. As Earth's longtime alien contact, he'd been chosen to officiate the ceremony. Still can't believe this is happening, Marcus admitted as Zhang helped him adjust the crystal clasps. A year ago, I was just a grad student studying theoretical alien life. Now you're about to make history, Zhang smiled. The first human to marry into the celestial royal family. Valera's proposal in the conference room had shocked everyone. A royal marriage, binding Earth and the Empire together forever. Some had called it too rushed, too radical. But Valera had been firm. She'd seen enough of both worlds to know this was right. The ceremony was being held in the university's botanical gardens, right where Marcus had first found Valera's crashed pod. The location had been her idea, saying it was where their story began. Flowers from both Earth and alien worlds decorated the space, their colors and scents mixing in beautiful ways. Through the window, Marcus could see the crowds. World leaders, alien diplomats, and, at Valera's insistence, the entire xenobiology department. Even Commander Vex and his team were there, under guard, to witness how their actions had led to exactly what they'd feared, Earth joining the galactic community. It's time, Zhang said softly. Marcus took a deep breath and walked out. The garden path seemed to glow with tiny lights, actually microscopic crystal creatures from Valera's homeworld, dancing in the air like fireflies. Then he saw her, and everything else faded away. Valera stood at the end of the path, wearing robes that shifted colors like the northern lights. She wasn't using any holographic disguise now. Her true form shimmered in the sunlight, crystal crown catching the light. But what made Marcus's heart skip was her smile, as bright and real as the day he'd helped her escape the hunters. As they stood together under an arch of intertwined earth roses and stellar blossoms, Professor Zhang began the ceremony, speaking in both English and the musical language of the Celestial Empire. Today, we celebrate not just the union of two people, but of two worlds, he said. A union that proves that differences in technology, biology, or culture mean nothing compared to the bonds of love, trust, and understanding. Valera's sister, now the Empire's regent, stepped forward with the royal seals. Our parents would be proud, she whispered to Valera. You've done what they always dreamed, brought our people into a new age. The actual vows were simple. Marcus and Valera had written them together, blending traditions from both their worlds. They spoke of partnership, of building bridges, of facing the unknown together. When they kissed, the crystal creatures erupted in a shower of light, and cheers went up in a dozen human and alien languages. Above them, the royal fleet performed an aerial dance, painting the sky with lights, while Earth's air forces joined in their own display. Later, at the reception, Marcus found a moment alone with his new wife. Happy? He asked, still amazed he could now feel the warmth of her true form without any disguise between them. More than I ever thought possible, Valera replied, her galaxy-like eyes sparkling. Who would have thought that crashing on a primitive planet would lead to all this? Marcus laughed. Well, my research was about finding alien life. I just didn't expect to find it, help save it, and marry it. And now, she asked, looking up at the stars becoming visible in the evening sky. Now, Marcus said, holding her close, we explore those stars together. Not as princess and student, not as advanced and primitive, but as equals, as family. Above them, Earth's first public faster-than-light ship, a wedding gift from the Empire, prepared for its maiden voyage. It had been named New Beginning in both English and the Empire's language, a perfect symbol for the future they would build together.